Yeah, hi friends, Doc South here, and I know I've mentioned to you, I may have even done a video on it where I tell how I met Robert De Niro and at the Chatterbox one day when I was DJing. He dropped by, I guess saw the place, decided he'd pull in, and he just came. I was out on the patio, if I recall right, playing tunes, or I might have been actually I might have been at my booth uh, inside the Chatterbox, and one of his people came over and said, "Doc." Now again, no one knew it was him, but he sent one of his people over and the helper or whoever was riding with him, maybe it was his chauffeur, I don't know. The guy says, "Look, Doc, don't make a fuss, but Robert De Niro's in the room here, and he'd like to just say hi to you. He really digs your music that you're playing. Would it be okay? And listen, if he comes over, don't make a fuss, because everybody will be coming over wanting to get autographs, and he won't be able to enjoy his meal. Do you understand that?" I said, yeah, of course. I said, I've never been rushed by my fans, but I can imagine it isn't much fun. He says, "Okay, you got it. We're on the same level here." He says, "I'm going to send him over. Just talk to him like you'd talk to anyone else. Don't put him on the mic. Probably wouldn't be a good idea. And I think he wants to request a song or two and just say hi." I said, "Okay, sure." Next thing I know, there he is, and darned if it wasn't. I thought someone was pulling a trick on me, but no, that was him. And he says, "God, Doc," he says, "I love these songs, this doo-wop from the, God, that's what I grew up on. And here you are at the Chatterbox. This place is wonderful. God, love a duck. It's great." He says, "Listen," he says, "do you got a couple songs you could play for me?" And he named one or two. I said, "Yeah, I got those. I'll play them for you." He says, "Well, when you do, don't say they're for me or anything. Just say, for a listener or something like that." I said, "Okay, sure." He says, "Honestly, you just can't imagine how awful it is." He says, "Sometimes I won't be able to eat." Okay. I said, "No, that's cool." He said, I've never been swamped by ravenous fans, but I can imagine it isn't always fun." He says, "You got that right, pal." We were talking, he stayed for a little longer, and then he went back to his chair. His hamburger came. Um, but, I remember him saying, he says, "So how are you doing?" He says, "You doing okay?" And I said, "I guess I'm doing okay. I mean, I guess I could be richer." Uh, he says, "Well, are you eating?" I said, "Yeah, sure, lots of good food." He says, "You got a good, are you married?" "Yeah," I said, "I'm married to a wonderful girl." He says, "You got a good wife for your soulmate and all that?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "God, you got 2 million right there. You're being fed, or you can eat. You're not undernourished, and you got a beautiful wife. Do you like what you do?" I said, "I love playing these records." He says, "Those three things are $1 million each, maybe even more if you count the wife. You throw the wife in there you got like $4 million. You don't, you just don't, you can't necessarily whip it out of your wallet and 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 spend it, but it's there. It's that value. It's the real value. Do you understand?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You woke up breathing. You got a good wife. You like what you do. People like you. Lots of people." I said, "Yeah, quite a few." He says, you're God, you're a gazillionaire." I said, "Yeah, I am. Doggone it. Well, thank you, sir." He said, "Oh, don't mention it." Words to that effect. And off he went to go eat his cheeseburger. Big old grin on his face, and out he went. No one bothered him. When he left, I let people know in the crowd. I said, "Do you folks know who was here about a half hour ago?" And people looked over at me. I said, "Yeah, you see him in the movies a lot. Yeah, Robert De Niro was here at the Chatterbox." And none of you noticed, huh? Oh, people were looking at me like, why didn't you let us know? I said, I couldn't let you know because he asked me not to. But he was here, and he's a very nice guy. I suggest you see all his movies. People say, well, okay, but gee. It's, but it was kind of funny. The thing is, there's riches and then there's real riches. And I think the real riches are more the good wife, something to do that you like doing, to make your living, stuff like that. It ain't the limo, and it isn't the fame. Truth be known, it isn't. That's okay if you can stand it, but really, I think just living a simple life and honoring the things you should honor, doing the things you should do on this good old planet of ours, and frankly, just being allowed on this planet, being placed here for a time period is quite a gift as well. You get right down to it. Look at all the stuff we can do here. It's great. Fantastic place, good old Earth. Or it can be. It certainly can be. I guess there's spots where it isn't. That's a shame. But there's a lot of places where, doggone, being on this planet, it's just about, well, it's just the bee's knees. Get right down to it. Anyway, Lord's Prayer moment. Oh my God, yes, for sure. Our Father, who, by the way, at the Chatterbox, I never keyed that mic without saying the Lord's Prayer first. Oh, never. All that crowd there, I'd look at them and I'd say, oh, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever. So be it. Okay. Friends, there you go. Hope you enjoyed that one. I know it's this basic story is deeper in my archives, or all these videos I've done, but I thought I'd knock this one out for you just to reopen it. Okay? Catch you later. Bye-bye.